In this video, we are going to learn to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula, which I have written up here in blue. So we have the opposite of b. I like to call that negative sign the opposite of b because it makes things less complicated when I'm plugging in numbers. So I have the opposite of b, then plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and all over 2 times a. So what are all these a's and b's and c's? A is going to be the coefficient of the x squared, or the number in front of x squared. So in this case, your a, since I don't see it, that's a 1x squared. Your b is the coefficient of x, so it's negative 6. And then c is your constant, which in this case is negative 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is replace the a's and b's and c's in the formula with the numbers from this problem. So the first thing I have here is the opposite of b. Well, my b is negative 6, which means the opposite of it is going to be positive 6. Then I have the plus minus. Now I have this long square root. Underneath the square root, I have my b number, which is this negative 6, but I need to square it. So negative 6 squared is positive 36. Make sure if you are squaring a negative in your calculator that you do put parentheses around that. This number here that we just put in, at 36, it's always going to be a positive number. So after the b squared, then I have negative 4 from the formula times the a and the c. Well, the a in this case is 1, and my c is negative 4. And then I'll put that all over the denominator is going to be 2 times the a, which the a is 1. Now, on this next step, what I want to do is see what this part is right here. I'm just going to bring the rest of this numerator down. So I've got 6 plus minus. I'm still going to have that 36. Now, when I multiply the rest of this in my calculator, I don't want to just think of this as going to be a minus, because once you do the multiplication, a lot of times that will turn to positive, because you have negative 4 times 1 times negative 4, which is actually positive 16. And then the denominator, which was the 2 times 1, just gives me 2. Now I'm going to add the 36 and the 16 together. So I have 6 plus or minus the square root of 52 over 2. Now, sometimes you could be done at this point. Unfortunately, on this problem, your radicand, which is the number that's underneath your square root, can be simplified because it has a factor, which means a number that goes into it evenly that is a perfect square, which means I can take the square root of it and get a whole number. So let's see how this is going to break up. So now I've got 6 plus or minus. I'm going to break the 52 up to 4 times 13, because you'll notice that square root of 4 I can simplify to plain old 2. So, and remember, your denominator is still the 2. So now let's rewrite that part. So you have 6 plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2. Square roots of 13 over 2. And the very last step is to simplify this fraction. So this right here, this line right here of a fraction means divided by. So if I'm dividing each of those top numbers by 2, I can do that evenly. So it'll make, I'm dividing everybody by 2. So I'm going to have a 3 there a 1 there, and a 1 there. So let's look at how this looks. So my first term is a 3. Then I have a plus and minus. Now, this second term is 1 square root of 13. So I can just write that as the square root of 13. And then if your denominator of your fraction is a 1, you don't need to write it, right? If you're divided by 1, you don't need to write that. So this would be your answer. Now, for the second half of this video, now that we have seen the process and used the process to solve this quadratic equation, I'm going to show you a quad calculator. So let's work this same problem, and I will put this quad calculator in your folder for this week. So I have, remember my numbers were A is 1, B was -6, and then my C was -4. And then I'm going to hit the calculate. So you'll notice not only does it give us that what we got, that x is 3 plus or minus the square root of 13, it also gives us the decimal equivalents of what those problems were. So here, and it also shows you how exactly what we did here when we did it by hand. Okay, the x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 13 is going to be the exact answers. These decimals are going to be approximate answers. Some questions are going to ask for just the exact answer, which is the one with the square root. And then the other one may ask you for the decimal, and it's going to ask you to round the approximate solutions to 4 decimal places. Okay, let's try another one, and we're going to come up with the exact solutions and the approximate solutions. We have x squared plus 3x minus 7 equals 0. So if I want to find my a, which is in front of x squared, so it's going to be a 1. My b is in front of x, so it's positive 3. And my c, which is the constant, is -7. So we'll come over to our quad calculator and input our new numbers. So a is still 1. B is, we'll change that to 3. And C will be -7. And then we'll calculate. So on this one, I will write the exact solutions and the approximate solutions. I'm even going to make it a little bit easier than how they have it. The exact solutions are x equals -3. Since the denominator of both of those fractions is 2, I can just make it one fraction with that common denominator. So I have -3 plus or minus the square root of 37 all over 2. So those are going to be your exact. The approximate are going to be, okay, because these decimals, they keep going on and on. So that's why they are called approximate solutions, because they're not exact like our square root solution is. So if I round this to the 4th decimal place, I have 1.5413. 3 is the 4th decimal place. So I need to look at the number after the 3. If it is 5 or greater, I'm going to round that 3 up to a 4, which in this case it is, because it's 8 after that. So when I round this, I'm going to have 1.54 1, and then I'll round that decimal up to a 4. Then my other approximate solution is the negative 4.5414. All right, let's try one more of these, and then I'll show you what you might see in Math Lab and how to enter your answers. So f of x equals 2x squared minus x plus 6. So my a will be 2. My b, which is the number in front of x, will be negative 1, and my c will be 6. So let's enter these new numbers into our quad calculator. So my a is 2, my b is negative 1, and my c is 6. And then calculate. You will notice that your answer has an I in it. That means that this is an imaginary number or a complex number answer. Be careful when you are typing this in. It won't ask for the decimal parts of this, or the approximate decimal answers to this solution, just the exact. So when I enter, you'll notice that both denominators are 4s. So I'm just going to do 1 plus or minus. Now you see that I that comes after the square root of 47. I am actually going to, when I enter this, put that I, just using the I off your keyboard, in front of the square root of 47. Because if I am typing in my answer, you cannot put the I underneath the square root. It is actually outside of the square root. So if you type it in before you push your square root tool in your toolbox, you won't make the mistake of accidentally putting it under the square root over 4. Okay, let's work this one, and then I will show how to make sure you type in your answers correct in Math Lab. So looking at this one, I have my a is in front of x squared, so it's a 1. My b is in front of x, so it's a 7. C is the constant at the end, so it is negative 3. So I'm going to go to my quad calculator and put in my new numbers. My a is 1, my b is 7, and my c is negative 3. So this one, I'm going to show how to do exact solutions and approximate solutions. So my exact are my ones with the square root. So I'm going to have negative 7, then plus or minus the square root of 61 all over 2. And then my approximate solutions are the decimals rounded to the 4th decimal place. So I'm going to have 0.405. 1 is my 4th number after the decimal, and since behind it is a 2, I am not rounding up this time. So I have 0.4051. The other approximate solution is the negative 7.4051. So now let's go enter these into your homework. So the exact solutions, again, are your square root solutions. So what I am going to do first is tell it that I am typing in a fraction. And then I can type this all in at once. So I have negative 7. Also, if you'll look right by the word more in your toolbox, you'll see that plus minus symbol. That just kind of makes it easier to where you don't have to type in 2 separate answers here. It's typing them in together. and then my square root of my toolbox, 61, and then go to your denominator, and your denominator is 2. Now it's going to ask for the approximate solutions. So these are the ones where you have the decimals that you rounded. So the first one is 0.4051, comma, the other one, negative 7.4051. Check your answer. Oh, what did I do? Go back to your quad calculator. Did I write it wrong? Maybe it would help if I read directions. The approximate solutions to 3 decimal places. So I need to rethink what I'm doing here, and so I need to take off that last one. So 0.405 and negative 0.405 helps to read instructions. Good thing we have 3 chances to type in our answer. So that is how you would type these in, and make sure you read the directions and you're only going to 3 decimal places.